you record. Okay. Right, so hari ni kita akan tengok chapter 9. Okay. Chapter 9 and then saya tak share lagi. Oh, saya dah share dalam WhatsApp group ya. Semua spesifik boleh tengok. Okay, so chapter 9 is about public policies ya. Berkenaan dengan kerajaan lah ya, government. Public semua berkenaan dengan government. Okay, so government policy, the main concern of any macroeconomic policy is to solve macroeconomic problems and to achieve the macroeconomic goals. So itu adalah polisi, apa polisi yang kerajaan akan ambil. Dia akan tengok apa macroeconomic problems. So dia akan try to solve the problem and then dia nak achieve the macroeconomic goals lah. Macroeconomic goals tu apa? The objective yang kita belajar itu. Okay. Alright. Kemudian the concept of macroeconomic policy is wide and it refers to both fiscal and monetary policy instrument. So policy ni ada dua lah, sama ada fiscal policy ataupun satu lagi kita panggil sebagai monetary policy. Okay, so hari ni kita tengok what is fiscal policy. Yeah. Fiscal policy refers to the use of government taxation and expenditure to influence the country's spending, employment and price level. So kalau fiscal policy bermaksud government nak correct the problem of economy tu, masalah ekonomi tu nak dibetulkan dengan cara government akan guna tax dan juga dia punya spending ataupun expenditure. Okay, so in other words, a fiscal policy refers to the regulation of the level of government spending, taxation and debt. Yeah, government expenditure, tax income and public debt are the important factors that influence the aggregate output, employment and prices in the economy. Right. Jadi kita tengok types of fiscal policy. Ada dua jenis, expansionary fiscal policy dan contractionary fiscal policy. Okay, so what is expansionary fiscal policy? It is adopted to overcome unemployment or recession problem. So bila berlaku masalah recession, kegawatan ekonomi dan masalah pengangguran yang berlaku, jadi kita akan menggunakan, kalau fiscal policy kita guna expansionary fiscal policy, kita nak kembangkan balik ekonomi itu. So in recession, the economy suffers from rising unemployment, falling income and shrinking economic activity. The government will increase public spending and reduce taxation. So apa government akan buat? Government akan increase spending, government spending and dia akan reduce dia punya tax collection. Okay, so bila government reduce spending, bila government increase dia punya spending, so government akan increase gaji pekerja awam, government akan banyakkan development project supaya dapat create job opportunities. And then government reduce the tax, government akan kurangkan tax lah, maknanya tax rate tu dikurangkan. So orang yang banyak exemption tax lah, orang tidak perlu bayar tax atau kurang membayar tax supaya ekonomi tu dapat berkembang kembali. Okay, so the effect of tax cut would increase the amount of disposable income of individual and business firm, right? Okay, kalau contractionary fiscal policy, it is adopted to overcome inflationary problem. Maknanya bila berlaku masalah inflation, kerajaan akan menggunakan contractionary fiscal policy. Dia nak kurangkan, dia nak shrinkkan, dia kuncupkan ekonomi itu supaya tidak fiscal inflation ni berlaku apabila ekonomi itu terlampau pesat. Dan bila dia terlalu berkembang, berlakulah masalah di mana harga barang naik terlalu tinggi. So dia nak kurangkan yang itu. Jadi dia gunakan contractionary fiscal policy. During inflation, the general price level increase continuously. There is a situation where the aggregate spending increase. This is a situation where too much money chasing for too few goods. So the government will increase tax and reduce the government spending. So government akan increase the tax dan reduce spending. Maknanya bila government increase the tax, orang yang ada banyak duit ni dia kena bayar tax. So kuranglah di spend. Kita nak dia kurang untuk spend. Bila dia kurang spend, inflation punya masalah tu akan berkurangan. Sebab bila kita spend, duit tu, kecairan tu terlampau tinggi, masalah harga barang naik secara meningkat secara continuously tu akan kerap berlaku. Jadi bila government naikkan tax, orang yang ada duit ni akan bayar tax, so dia kurang spend. And then government pula akan kurangkan government spending, kurangkan gaji pekerja awam ataupun dia akan kurangkan project development supaya kuranglah spending. Duit tu keluar tu dia tak banyak, supaya dia nak stablekan balik harga tu. Okay, so that is expansionary fiscal policy dan juga contractionary fiscal policy. Okay, right. So sekali lagi, the tools of fiscal policy, government dengan government spending atau expenditure dan tax. Okay, right. So government expenditure ni apa? Kita nak tengok tadi kita dah tengok secara general lah kan. So kita nak tengok what is government expenditure. There are two types of government expenditure, operating expenditure and development expenditure. Okay, so the government will increase its expenditure to control unemployment during recession, and during inflation, government will reduce the expenditure. Okay, so nak tanya you all, government expenditure ni ada dua tadi kan. So satu adalah development dan satu lagi operating. Okay, jadi apakah apa itu operating expenditure dan apa itu satu lagi tu tadi development expenditure. Sekejap saya cari dalam textbook ni Okay, so operating expenditure refers to the expenditure of various government departments necessary to maintain their services. Examples include emolument, which refers to the salary for civil servant, service charges, debts, pensions, gratuities, grants and transfers, asset acquisitions and supplies and services. So itu adalah operating expenditure, nak memastikan department government ni berjalan dengan lancar. So payment kepada gaji pekerja, pension dan sebagainya, itu adalah operating expenditure. Untuk development expenditure, it refers to the expenditure related to projects lah that boost economic growth or strengthen the productive capacity of the economy. So anything lah yang meningkatkan penjanaan pendapatan, meningkatkan ekonomi negara, contohnya macam allocate security sector, armed forces, social service, education, health and housing, economy sector, public utilities, trade and so on and so forth, itu termasuk dalam development expenditure. Okay, right. So itu adalah government expenditure. Untuk taxes pula, to control unemployment problem, government would cut tax rate to increase disposable income. Okay, and government will increase tax during inflation to reduce disposable income. Right. Jadi, apa pula tax? Tax ni adalah pendapatan terbesar kerajaan. So pendapatan terbesar kerajaan adalah datangnya daripada taxation, tax revenue. Okay, so basically pendapatan kerajaan ni ada tiga. Satu tax revenue yang terbesar, kedua non-tax revenue dan yang ketiga adalah non-revenue receipts. So apa itu tax revenue? Tax revenue source is a compulsory contributions that is imposed by the government on private individuals and organizations in order to raise revenue to finance the expenditure on public goods and services. So tax ni kita ada banyak kan, kita ada direct tax, indirect tax lah, right? So direct tax tu macam income tax, corporate tax. Kalau indirect tax tu macam sales tax, services tax, import duty and excise tax and so on. Okay. So what is non-tax revenue? Non-tax revenue which are arise from other sources besides tax. So revenue yang kerajaan dapat yang bukan daripada tax lah. So itu adalah non-tax revenue. Okay. And then kemudian non-revenue receipt, category of revenue includes refund for expenditure, interdepartmental credits, refund of overpayment, payment reimbursement and so on. So that is non-revenue receipt. Jadi tiga cara kerajaan akan dapatkan pendapatan dia tu. Tapi yang terbesar adalah daripada tax ni lah. So government akan buat apa kalau masalah itu, masalah berlaku adalah unemployment atau recession, government akan kurangkan tax. Tapi bila berlaku inflation, government akan increase the tax. Okay. Okay, so that is fiscal policy. Okay, what is monetary policy? Okay, monetary policy refers to the policy employ the central bank control of the supply of money as an instrument for achieving the macroeconomic objective. Jadi di sini kalau monetary policy dia akan melibatkan bank negara, central bank. Jadinya orang tengah ni adalah central bank. Okay, so bank negara yang akan jadi orang tengah. Okay, there are two types of monetary policy, expansionary dengan contractionary. Okay, so what is expansionary monetary policy? The expansionary monetary policy is aimed to increase the money supply in the economy. So this policy is employed during recession or unemployment lah. Jadi expansionary monetary policy pun akan digunakan apabila berlaku unemployment atau recession. Kemudian contractionary monetary policy is adopted to decrease the money supply in the economy. So this policy is employed during inflation. Jadi during inflation, money supply banyak ya dalam ekonomi. Jadi nak kurangkan money supply, kerajaan akan impose monetary policy, contractionary monetary policy. Okay, kalau during recession atau unemployment, berlaku money supply tu terlalu sikit dalam ekonomi, jadi nak tambah money supply, government akan adopt expansionary monetary policy. Okay, right. So apakah instrumen under monetary policy? Ya, kita ada open market operation, legal reserve requirement, legal reserve requirement, and then bank or discount rate, dan juga interest rate. Okay, so first kita nak tahu what is open market operation. Yeah, so the central bank can influence the cash reserve of commercial bank through its open market operation. Open market operation includes buying or selling of government security by the central bank to influence the cash reserve in commercial bank. Jadi open market operation ni adalah jual beli security ataupun jual beli bond dan sebagainya. So jual beli itu dia bukan keluar dia in terms of asset dia adalah di sini adalah a piece of paper lah, maknanya security. Maknanya di sini jual beli, you all understand kod accounting kan, jual beli securities daripada central bank. So flow of duit itu bergantung kepada jual beli security ni lah. So during inflation, central bank will reduce the cash reserve of commercial bank by selling security. So during inflation nak kurangkan money supply macam mana? So central bank akan jual security kepada commercial, kepada individual, kepada firms, kepada commercial bank. So bila mereka dibeli, so duit akan berkurangan, so money supply akan berkurangan, jadi masalah inflation pun akan solve. During unemployment, central bank will purchase security, increase the cash reserve of commercial bank and increase the money supply. Jadi during recession atau unemployment, central bank yang akan beli security daripada commercial bank, individuals ataupun firms supaya akan meningkatkan money supply in the economy. Okay, so that is open market operation. And then we have legal reserve requirement. Okay, legal reserve requirement. So this is the instrument of variable minimum legal cash reserve ratio requirement. Will affect the amount of total of the reserve of the commercial bank lah. Okay. At this same time, it's also affects the amount of excess cash reserve in commercial bank, which reflects their ability to lend. Okay, so what is legal cash reserve requirement? It is a minimum amount of cash that the central bank requires all commercial banks to keep in the central bank. Okay, so setiap commercial bank, macam kita ada satu bank yang utama iaitu bank negara yang akan manage all the activities ni lah. Jadi bawahnya ada anak-anak dia tu adalah commercial banks macam Maybank, RHB Bank, CIMB Bank and so on. Jadi bank-bank ini dia perlu meletakkan minimum level ataupun minimum cash kepada central bank sebagai reserve. So kalau ada apa-apa masalah nanti diorang boleh gunakan later. So diorang ada percentage lah kan, berapa persen diorang kena letakkan sebagai reserve ke dalam central bank. Okay, So decreasing the minimum legal cash reserve ratio will result in excess cash reserve and become available for credit creation. Maknanya di sini during inflation lah during inflation macam mana nak kurangkan money supply. So central bank will raise the minimum legal cash reserve ratio to restrain credit creation by commercial bank and reduce the money supply. Maknanya dia akan naikkan ratio ni supaya lebih banyak cash yang perlu disimpan oleh commercial bank ke dalam central bank supaya kuranglah duit yang ada dalam bank untuk bagi loan kepada orang ramai. Jadi money supply akan berkurangan. During recession pula central bank akan reduce the legal cash minimum legal ni minimum legal cash reserve ratio. So untuk create ataupun untuk encourage credit creation. Okay, to increase the money supply. So terbalik pula lah during kegawatan ekonomi, during recession, central bank akan kurangkan ratio ni supaya kurang cash yang perlu diletakkan oleh commercial bank ke dalam central bank. Okay, supaya mereka ada banyak duit untuk bagi loan, pinjaman dan sebagainya kepada orang ramai. So money supply tu akan meningkat. So itu adalah legal reserve requirement. Kemudian nombor 3 kita ada bank ataupun discount rate. The discount rate or bank rate is the interest rate that the central bank charges on loan of reserve to bank. Yeah. Changes in the bank rate or discount rate affect the cost at which borrowing can be made available to bank from the central bank. So during inflation, the central bank will increase its bank rates or discount rate. Yeah. So interest on borrowing becomes more expensive and lead to decrease in the demand for loan. Okay, maknanya kita nak tengok interest rate on borrowing. So kalau kita pinjam, interest rate on borrowing ni macam mana? So kita panggil bank rate ataupun discount rate. So during inflation nak kurangkan money supply, bank rate ni akan meningkat lah. Central bank akan naikkan bank rate ni supaya interest on borrowing itu adalah naik, meningkat. So dekat sini nak bayar balik itu mahal. So bila nak bayar balik itu mahal, so orang mungkin tidak akan meminjam. Kurang meminjam. So money supply akan berkurangan. Kalau during recession pula, central bank will reduce bank rate or discount rate, thus increase rate on borrowing becomes cheap and this interest rate on borrowing become cheap and this lead to increase in the demand for loan. Maknanya during recession, bank rate ni akan dikurangkan supaya interest on the borrowing tu kurang, maknanya nak bayar balik tu murah. Pinjaman tu. Jadi orang ramai akan interested untuk meminjam, so dia demand for loan akan meningkat, money supply pun meningkat. So ini adalah untuk bank rate ataupun discount rate. Dan yang last sekali adalah interest rate. Okay, so interest rate on saving. Interest rate ni adalah interest rate on saving. Right, so the central bank will persuade commercial bank to decrease their interest rate for saving during recession. Okay, which will discourage people from keeping their money in the bank and increase consumption of goods and services. Jadi, during recession, kegawatan ekonomi, kita nak tambahkan money supply. Kita nak tambahkan kecairan dalam ekonomi, kita tidak boleh, orang ramai tak boleh menyimpan. Jadi mereka perlu spend duit. Jadi, macam mana nak buat? Jadinya commercial bank central bank akan memohon ataupun minta commercial bank untuk kurangkan interest on saving lah. So bila interest on saving dikurangkan, jadi orang ramai akan rasa kalau diorang save pun, saving duit pun pulangan tak banyak. Jadi bila pulangan tak banyak, lebih baik mereka spend. So money supply akan meningkat. During inflation pula, central bank will request for higher interest rate for saving, will attract people to save and reduce the money held by them. So during inflation, kita nak encourage orang untuk menyimpan dan jangan spend. So bila kita nak kurangkan money supply, jadi interest on saving ni akan dinaikkan, jadi orang ramai akan lebih banyak menyimpan daripada berbelanja, so money supply akan reduce. So basically itulah konsep monetary policy dengan fiscal policy. Jadi kalau kita guna fiscal policy, kita ada dua instrumen, iaitu kita nak increase tax atau reduce government spending, ataupun satu lagi decrease tax, increase government spending. Okay, so dua instrumen, tax dengan government spending. Okay, sama ada expansionary fiscal policy atau kita guna contractionary fiscal policy. Untuk monetary policy pula, kita ada 4 instrumen lah. Kita ada 4 instrumen. Iaitu kita guna open market operation, legal reserve requirement, bank or discount rate, dan akhir sekali adalah interest rate. Sama juga ada dua cara, sama ada guna expansionary monetary policy ataupun contractionary monetary policy. Okay, so faham macam mana? Okay, faham tak? Semua okay?
Faham, madam.
Alright. Okay. Ya, saya try seterusnya. Okay. Right. So, setakat ini untuk public policy itu sahajalah. Okay, you all nak terus masuk ke chapter yang seterusnya. Dah banyak dah hari ni. Dia rasa macam banyak sangat lah. Macam mana? Okay. Nak continue ataupun nak rehat? Kalau kita continue sikit boleh?
Okay je, madam.
Okay, kita continue Saya share kejap dalam WhatsApp group. Okay, so chapter 10 adalah berkenaan dengan masalah ekonomi lah, masalah ekonomi. Okay. Right. So masalah ekonomi adalah ada dua lah, macroeconomic problems. Kita ada inflation dan juga unemployment. Right. So what is inflation? Inflation can be defined as a continuous increase in the general price level of goods and services in the economy. Jadi kalau harga barang tu naik continuously, sentiasa naik semakin naik, itu dipanggil inflation lah. It can be defined as the rate of upward movement in the price level for an aggregate for goods and services. It is situation where too much money chasing for too few goods. Maknanya kalau kita beli barang tu, kalau barang dengan harga RM100, kita dapat sikit je barang contohnya kan. Macam dulu RM100 boleh beli banyak. So bila berlaku inflation, too much money, duit tu macam banyak tapi barang yang kita beli tu sedikit sahaja. Maknanya value of money dah drop lah. There is a situation called deflation. Deflation refers to a decrease in the general price level of goods and services in the economy, and it is the opposite of inflation. Stagflation tu apa? It refers to a condition in an economy where there is high unemployment and rapid inflation simultaneously. So masalah kegawatan ekonomi dan juga inflation kita panggil sebagai stagflation lah. Right? Okay. So macam mana kita nak measure inflation? Okay. A rise in the price level means a drop in the value of money. Okay, so a consumer price index measure the average price of consumer goods and services. So kita nak measure inflation, kita akan guna consumer price index. So dia adalah average price of consumer goods and services, dan dia adalah measure cost of living. Okay, so a weighted CPI measure the change in average price of a market basket of goods and services purchased by typical household, taking into account importance of a certain goods and services relative to others. So CPI ni dia ada condition lah, dia ada barang-barang yang tertentu, barang-barang keperluan, ya, dia ada list barang-barang keperluan. So harga-harga barang tu akan termasuk dalam CPI, ya. So CPI ni yang akan menunjukkan sama ada inflation ke tidak. Okay, so increase in CPI can be caused by increase in the main index. Main index include food, drinks, clothing, furniture, transportation and so on. Maknanya barang-barang keperluan lah. So when CPI increases, inflation rate will also increase. Okay, so kita tengok macam mana nak kira. So inflation rate ni macam mana nak kira? CPI this year minus CPI previous year divided by CPI previous year times 100. Okay, contohnya CPI for the year 2000 was 110 and the CPI for the year 2001 is 121. So what is the inflation rate? So 121 minus 110 over 110 times 100. So the answer is, what is the answer? Saya pun tak dapat kat sini. Okay, cuba kira berapa answer dia? Inflation rate di sini. Okay, so 121 minus 110 over 110. Okay, so 10%. So 10% is the inflation rate. Okay, so basically inflation rate, okay, inflation rate ni, inflation rate dia tidak boleh melebihi daripada 3%. Kalau dia melebihi daripada 3% macam ni kan, ya, melebihi daripada 3%, dia akan jadi 11%. Okay, bila dia kita panggil tu, dia menjadi more than 3%, maknanya harga barang tu naik terlampau tinggi dalam negara. So dia tak boleh lah, ya, tak boleh lah, right? Maksudnya negara tu adalah menghadapi masalah inflation yang tinggi. So dia ada negara-negara inflation ni ada negara-negara yang bukan saja negara maju, negara mundur pun sama. Ya, kena bawa duit sebanyak-banyaknya nak beli barang tapi kena bawa ratus-ratus ribu, kan, macam Indonesia. Value duit dia berjuta-juta tetapi dia punya sebenarnya dia punya duit tu secara kasarnya berjuta-juta tapi value dia sebenarnya tidak semacam tu. Ya. Okay, baik. So now kita nak tengok causes of inflation. So apa yang menyebabkan inflation? Ya, demand pull inflation dan satu lagi cost push inflation. Okay, so what is demand pull inflation? Ya, it occurs when aggregate demand exceeds aggregate supply. Maknanya bila demand lebih daripada supply, dia akan menyebabkan inflation. So bila benda ni akan berlaku? So factors that could contribute to the increase and shift in the aggregate demand, inilah ya, increase in consumption, increase in government expenditure, increase in investment, increase in export. So keempat-empat ni akan menyebabkan increase in aggregate demand. So when aggregate demand more than aggregate supply, there would be pressure on the price. When the economy near the full employment level, increase in aggregate demand will cause increase in general price level. Yeah, this is where too much money chasing for too few goods. So ini adalah penyebab inflation, ya, di mana demand pull inflation tu lah, ya. Okay, cost push inflation pula macam mana? Ya, cost push inflation, it is caused by increase in the general price level associated with an increase in the cost of production. Ya, in other words, inflation occurs due to increase in the cost. So bila cost meningkat, dia akan menyebabkan harga barang meningkat. So itulah berlaku inflation. Ya, for example, if the price of raw materials or wages increases, the cost per unit of output will increase. Therefore, the aggregate supply will decrease and will cause the price of goods and services to increase. So ini dia menyebabkan shift in the aggregate supply. Okay. So wage push inflation, dia ada beberapa faktor bawah cost push ni lah, ya. Faktor yang pertama, wage push inflation. So it is due to increase in the wage rate, cause the cost of production to increase and the price of output to increase. So bila wage increase, cost meningkat, price pun akan meningkat. Okay. And then we have profit push inflation. So certain producer or monopolies stock up or keep goods and create artificial shortage in order to increase the price of goods that they can have higher profits lah. Maknanya hoarding lah. Hoarding ni menyebabkan inflation juga. And then import push inflation. occurs when the price of imported raw materials and finished goods increases, might due to fluctuations of foreign exchange. So bila kita import barang-barang ataupun raw material kita import daripada luar negara, so cost meningkat, jadi price pun akan meningkat menyebabkan inflation lah. Ya, alright. Baik, apakah effects of inflation? Inflation affects the consumer's disposable income and their expenditure pattern because the money value has fallen and there are lesser goods can be produced. Inflation can change the existing pattern of distribution of income and wealth in society, where some groups are relatively better off than others. Maknanya inflation ni dia kadang-kadang dia akan menyebabkan satu group tu better off, satu group tu worse off lah. Kita tengok situation people who gain during inflation. So businessmen earn higher profit from rising prices, they akan gain during inflation. Property owner, macam real estate owner, so property ni meningkat harganya during inflation, mereka lebih untung. Shareholder who receive higher dividends since company profit are higher. Debtor because the real value of money has changed. So penghutang pun better off lah, sebab masa dia pinjam ni value duit tu adalah tinggi. So people who lose, people depend on fixed income. Kalau kita ada pendapatan fixed income, gaji kita macam tu je, tapi harga barang meningkat, kita boleh beli kurang barang. Jadi duit gaji yang kita ada tu value dia dah berkurangan. Holder of government bond, holder of fixed deposit in bank and holder of life insurance policy. So ini adalah lose, orang yang akan jadi worse off lah. Creditor, because when they receive the money owed to them, the real value of money will be less. So kalau creditor ni contohnya macam dia dapat balik duit dia, penghutang dapat balik duit dia, duit dia time ni value dah turun. Macam debtor tu contohnya dia beli dia pinjam during value duit tu tinggi. So bila creditor pula dia dapat during value dah drop lah. Okay, so now kita nak tengok how to control inflation. So how kita nak guna public policy tu, kita nak guna policy tu to control inflation. So macam tadi kita dah discuss, kalau kita guna fiscal policy ni, fiscal policy ni F. So kalau kita guna fiscal policy, okay, kalau kita guna fiscal policy, during inflation kita akan impose contractionary fiscal policy. Increase tax, decrease government spending. So kita increase tax will decrease the disposable income on individual and reduce the consumption of goods and services. So people will demand less goods and services. So inflation problem can be eliminated. Okay, kita decrease government spending, so government akan reduce the spending, so it will affect aggregate demand. So government will cut salary of its servant or postpone its development project to reduce the purchasing power of the public. Therefore, the inflation problem can be corrected. Okay, so ini kalau inflation lah, guna fiscal policy. Okay, contractionary monetary policy. Kalau monetary policy kita guna contractionary. Okay, so macam mana kita ada 4 instrumen tu kan, open market operation, legal reserve requirement, dan juga discount rate dan interest rate. So kalau kita guna contractionary monetary policy, open market operation macam mana? Central bank will sell short-term bond, government security and treasury bill to the public and commercial bank. So this will reduce the amount of cash by public and decrease the cash reserve by commercial bank. Therefore, sale of security will reduce the money supply. So government akan sell the security to the public lah. Kalau legal reserve requirement, central bank will increase the legal reserve requirement. This will force the commercial bank to restrict their lending to the public. It will reduce the ability of commercial bank to provide loans and lead to decrease in the money supply. So central bank akan naikkan legal reserve requirement ratio. Jadi commercial bank akan letakkan duit ke dalam cash, dia letakkan cash ke dalam central bank dengan banyak. So kuranglah untuk mereka memberi pinjaman kepada orang, jadi money supply akan reduce. Okay, kemudian discount rate or bank rate. interest rate on borrowing. Changes in the discount rate affect the cost of borrowing. So during inflation, the central bank will increase the discount rate and increase the cost of borrowing. So people reduce their borrowing so they can spend less, so they will save more lah. Yeah. Interest rate on saving pula, central bank will persuade the commercial bank to increase the interest rate on deposit from public. High interest rate will encourage people to save more. Jadi central bank dia akan increase interest rate on saving. Jadi kalau kita save, kita akan dapat pulangan lebih banyak. Jadi lebih baik kita saving lah. Jadi bila kita saving, kita kurangkan spending, money supply akan berkurangan. Okay. And dia ada satu lagi measure yang kita panggil sebagai direct control. Kadang-kadang government dia akan ambil direct control juga. So apa direct control dia? First, price control and rationing. Government will control the price of goods by fixing price ceiling and price floor. Bila government fix price ceiling and price floor, itu adalah juga salah satu macam mana dia nak control inflation lah. So kalau it is fail, then rationing will be used as a last resort. Rationing is a situation when consumer can buy goods and services using coupon. So guna coupon lah, tapi ni dah tak berapa popular lah guna coupon kan. So banyaknya government akan fix price ceiling, price floor. Okay, anti-hoarding campaign. Hoarding will create artificial shortage and push price to increase. So government will take action lah. Action, dia akan saman orang-orang yang company yang buat sorok-sorokkan barang ni macam tu lah. And compulsory saving. Compulsory saving ni macam EPF Employees Provident Fund, KWSP. So 11% of workers wish will be deducted every month and it will credited into worker saving account. So salah satu cara EPF ni lah. EPF ni kurangkan kuasa membeli kan. Dan juga untuk pension nantilah kan, untuk masa akan datang. Macam sekarang ni saving, barulah kita nampak macam mana EPF tu berlaku kan. Macam sekarang ni berlaku pandemik, orang dah tak bekerja, jadi tak ada duit. So duit EPF ni mereka boleh keluarkan untuk diorang punya spending sekarang ni. Okay, right? Okay. Right. So you all boleh try buat soalan ni. Yeah. Define demand pull inflation and cost push inflation and then calculate the inflation rate. Right? Boleh buat lah. Kalau tak faham nanti boleh tanya saya. So I think sampai situ sajalah inflation dulu. Next class kita akan go to unemployment pula. Sebab saya takut nanti banyak sangat awak pun pening kepala pula. And then saya akan bagi latihan sikit lah. You all buat yang ni juga. Buat yang tadi tu. Try this out ni. Okay, buat yang ni. And then saya try tengok ada soalan dalam textbook, saya akan bagi juga. Okay, ada soalan nak tanya. Basically banyak membaca lah. Untuk chapter 9, 10 ni banyak membaca. Kena faham yang tu je. Okay, kalau tak ada apa-apa nak tanya?
Kita akan tidak ada madam.
Okay. Right, so kalau tak ada apa, thank you so much for today. Let's end our class with Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-As.
Thank you madam.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Okay.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, madam.
Welcome.